What is up, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the Stay Tranquilo Podcast, powered by Johnny Cuba. We're here with my boy Will Lengyel. Am I saying it? Lengyel.
Everyone gets
I
it wrong.
I always feel like I say your
It's
last
it's
name
difficult. It's it's Hungarian and it's pronounced Lengyel. So even
Oh,
I don't
wow.
even pronounce it the right way.
Okay.
But I grew up pronouncing it Lengyel. So
Yeah.
I could see as a matter of growing up, a bunch of even diploma was incorrect.
Yeah.
So it's,
I mean,
it's reasonable.
your last name is definitely harder to spell than mine. I mean, mine, like, on paper, if you look at it, it doesn't look that hard. But, like, pronunciation is Dunand. But
Yeah.
no one ever pronounces it that way. It's always Dunand. People somehow will change the last N to an R, so they'll say Dunard. I'm like, there's not even an R in my name. Like,
I think the problem is it's the Y. My last name is Lengyel.
Yeah.
So if you just say I don't know. I guess people
Lengyel.
they see the Y and the Y throws them off. That's
Yeah.
the problem. So whatever.
Freaking-
It is what it is. I've accepted that no one's ever gonna get it right.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm the same boat. I'm like, you pronounce it however you want.
there you go.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about you, what you got going on, what you do.
So I'm a realtor, and obviously I think a lot of people know that. And I've just my whole life kind of been involved in real estate marketing. I've worked with developers, boutique firms from Chicago, Miami. My company is based in Compass is based in New York, and we've quickly expanded over the last 7 years now from startup to $7 billion valuation. So it's cool to work for not only Compass, but Compass as a tech company. We're
Yeah.
changing the way real estate's done. So I'm very
Definitely.
excited to help people who are in our generation navigate such a ridiculous and tough market, especially in Miami, that just
Nowadays, yeah.
today became the least affordable market in the United States.
Wow.
Just a few hours ago.
That's
that was announced.
great news for all all these home buyers out here right now.
Well, it's tough, dude, because they're dealing with a lot of people who have so much cash from New York. People are fed up with the politics of some of their states.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I think it was long overdue. I think eventually Miami was supposed to be that place, strictly because of a lot of what the laws that were in some of these other large cities like New York, like San Francisco, California in general. I think it was inevitable. Plus, you had the layer of like how awesome Miami is as a city.
A tax haven.
Yeah, taxes, but you have the beaches, the weather. Like, there's so many other additional reasons to it. Because it's like, I mean, no offense to like, I don't know, like Wisconsin, but like, I don't want to live in Wisconsin.
It's funny you mentioned that because the most affordable city on the list today was Wichita, Wisconsin.
Wow,
So,
see, there you go.
Not that anybody would move there. I don't
No,
think.
I mean,
nothing
listen.
against. I'm sorry, Wichita, Kansas. Wisconsin wasn't on there.
okay.
My bad.
I don't know geography that well to be like, dude, that's not in Wisconsin.
I could have just rolled. I could have run with it, and you would have been like.
Yeah, I would have never known. I would have gone in like a comment and be like, dude, Wichita's in Kansas.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how Miami has grown. I mean, right before our eyes, since we were born, nothing existed in downtown Brickell, and now it's. I love it. I used to actually, believe it or not, hate Miami. I always used to want to live in New York or Los Angeles. The more I got to travel, and we'll touch on traveling too briefly later, because I'm sure you have a lot of good stories that I would personally like to hear, and we both like travel a lot. I started to love Miami more, dude. I was like, there's no place like home. There's no place like Miami. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world now. My 2 favorite days of traveling, the day I leave and the day I come back.
That's a good way to put it. It's true. It's like the anticipation of like going, somewhere new, whether it's a place you've been to, but just new destination.
Yeah.
But dude, I feel the same way. Like, I'm always happy to come back here. Like, it's something that I don't know what it is. Obviously we're born and raised here, so it's home.
It's electric, dude.
But yeah, it hits different. Like some of the biggest cities, like you go there and it's not the same. To be honest, I went to New York in December, and I didn't enjoy it.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't, because to me New York was a place that I genuinely really always loved. I've gone there already a couple times, but something about it, I don't know if it was fucking 18 degrees,
It could
and
have been the weather.
that didn't help. But like, I don't know, it looked a little bit more trashier than usual, right? It just didn't, I don't know, it didn't feel the same. I don't know if it's like I'm just growing more of an appreciation to the warmth and the weather and the culture of what Miami's becoming, but it just, I don't know, it didn't hit the same.
I mean, that's a tough temperature to be.
It is.
I personally like the cold weather. Like
I do too. I like the break of the heat, you know, and going to cold places.
I was just in New York on Monday. I had to get a sandwich from Cat's Deli.
No, the food there is fucking phenomenal.
Sandwich from Cat's Deli. I literally just went for the day and came back with one of my
I did see that. That's epic.
One of my friends. So we got a lot done. I was like, we went to I think 4 or 5 different bars and got food. So I was very like, we got a lot done in a day.
That's impressive.
You know. And traveling like that, a lot of people think it's like super expensive, but it's not. You just gotta be willing to be flexible.
Yeah, and on the days that it's a little bit more affordable.
You go, well, that's how I've always traveled. Okay, when's it cheap? We're going then.
Yeah.
Not when can I
When
go?
is it convenient for me?
When is it convenient for the airfare
exactly.
for me to pay for the
that's
airfare?
True.
So
a hidden feature that I found, I don't know if you've ever done this. So Google has a option called Explore, right? And you put the time frame of like a month or a few months that you would want to go somewhere. Doesn't even matter where you want to go. The duration of the trip, so if it's a weekend trip, a week-long trip, whatever it may be, and it'll just spit out a bunch of costs of cities that you can fly to. So if you want to go fly to Arizona and it's $45, you can book a flight on there. So it explores for you flights in different cities. You can tell them the territory you want to go to. So if it's international, you can put international. Yeah. If it's in the U.S., domestic, you could put that, and it'll just spit out a bunch of...
I gotta get in on that, because I usually I'm like, well, what city do I feel like going to?
Right, and then you'll search.
Google Flights, and I'll search it, because Google Flights does a great job of at least telling you...
They do.
You know, which days are the cheapest to fly, and also secretflying.com.
Never used that. I've used Hopper.
Secretflying.com is where it's at, because they show you airfares, they show you what fares are just low in general all around the world. My flight to Malaysia... I flew for $510 round trip.
Damn.
Because it was an airfare and it showed up and we bought that and we rode out there. So I'm gonna send that to you when we're done.
And I've never heard of that one. I've heard of all these like what's the other one? Skybound or Sky something. I've used that one. Hopper is the one I usually use because it'll tell you like what dates to buy. You know, like hey, like this flight is $300, but it's expected to drop to like $150. Yeah. So I've used that in the past, but.
So what's been your favorite city recently then?
Favorite city recently? That's a good question. I went to Nashville recently. That was a good time.
You liked it?
I did. Yeah. I won't go there again for a while. But
I don't think I'm going there for a while either.
Yeah,
and it's already been 2 years since I was there.
We did like a week-long trip of following the Dolphins. So at the end of the year, so we went to New Orleans on the 26th. They played Monday night in New Orleans. So we watched them in New Orleans. That stadium is sick.
Did they win that game?
They won that game. So that was 8 in a row. So we were like, shit, dude. Like, if we keep winning, like, we win in this road trip, we come back home, and we win the last game, we're going into the playoffs. So we were like, damn. Because when we booked that trip, it was probably like week 3. We were like 1-4. We're like, bro. Or, yeah, like 1-2.
Well, at least you guys won 8 games in a row. The Broncos didn't even win 2 in a row. So.
Yeah, so we were going into that trip like, dude, we're watching another terrible Dolphins team. Then we go on this crazy 7-game winning streak going into the trip. So it was win in New Orleans. That was the game 8 in a row. Then went into Tennessee, and that game was miserable. Yeah. Because we got our asses handed to us. And then
Derrick Henry playing in that one?
Henry was not playing. Like the refs, there was a lot of bad calls. I mean, the offense couldn't do crap, but it was like a sleet game, and we were sitting on the top of the stadium, just getting pelted by ice the whole time. There wasn't enough whiskey to like keep me warm in that game, dude. Like, and we got thermals at Walmart because when we booked the trip the week before, it said it was gonna be like 60 degrees at game time, warm, sunny. Then all of a sudden, 3 days before the trip, weather changed drastically. It's like it's gonna snow. Yeah. And we're like, dude, I don't got any snow clothes for this game right now. Like, so we had to go to Walmart, get thermals. We all got thermal underwear. Got gloves. Yeah, just for the game. And then to watch us get our asses handed to us.
I forgot my gloves when I summited Kilimanjaro.
So,
I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
and
that's
I had
insane.
just bought hiking gloves. I didn't bring, like, ski gloves. So that was a whole mission in and of itself, trying to reach the top on the last day.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about that. Yeah. So you recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
I summited Mount Kilimanjaro.
So summited. So tell us about that experience, like, from soup to nuts, like the preparation that goes into something like that, and then the actual experience itself.
The whole trip was, I think it started at a bar, actually. One of my buddies was like, hey, let's summit Kilimanjaro. And I was like, I'm a yes man. So I was just like, all right, let's do it. And I think some people didn't know how serious I was, but if you come to me with a good travel idea, I'm down. Let's do it. Let's run it. And in my head, I love this idea because it's never even passed through my head before. I've never thought like, okay, let's summit a mountain. Is that even feasible? And so I did my research. I was like, all right, this is cool. Apparently, like, you can do it. Not with minimal training. You need to be fit, or very fit, rather. Because we were having a hard time towards the end.
I can imagine.
I was having a hard time.
Because what's the summit height is?
19,500 feet. So that's taller than any highest point in the contiguous 48 states.
Yeah.
So preparation was just, running every day, just being healthy, cardio.
Yeah.
The most important thing, though, was Stairmaster with a backpack, because we were hiking every day with 15, 20 pounds on our backs. The porters, they would carry everything. These guys were crazy. They'd come by with their tents. They actually would break down the camps after we had already left, and they would still get to the next camp after us, carrying our tents.
God damn, that's just what they do. They just climb up and down.
Well, my guide said he climbs Kilimanjaro twice a month. Twice a month he summits, and it's usually between 6 to 8 days. And it was, that blew my mind away.
He's pretty much doing that every day of the month.
Pretty much. So, 50% of the month he's hiking.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind away. And as far as it was, the closer that the trip got, it was equal parts excitement, equal parts nervousness, because I hadn't traveled transatlantic yet in a year and a half since starting to deal with all my anxiety issues and all of that. So this was like a massive step, and I couldn't have been more excited once I'll never forget, I flew from Miami JFK to Amsterdam, and Amsterdam to Kilimanjaro. But on that JFK flight to Amsterdam, I cried, because my parents, I was like, hey, I'm going to be on this flight.
Yeah.
I'll text you guys when I land, etc. I had Wi-Fi anyway, but I was going to be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I cried for a second. I was like, I'm doing this again. I'm doing what I love again. It's been a year and a half since I've been able to travel, like, transatlantic. It took me 6 months just to travel 2 hours away from Miami after dealing with all that. And, getting to the top of the mountain was like,
it's
surreal.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it in words. It still
fathom.
hasn't hit me. Like, I don't think I did that. Like, that's one of those things that's just never gonna hit, because it sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah, but you're gonna always look back at that moment and be like, damn, I did that.
I did fucking do that.
That's fucking sick.
I'm so happy that I did it with the people that I did with too.
Yeah.
But the crazier thing was, we actually, I contracted COVID the day before that I was supposed to get on the flight. 2 days before, actually.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So my buddies, I told them, hey, just go without me. I'll catch up. And so that added another variable to the whole trip. And I asked I was talking to my dad. I called my dad and I was like, hey, do you think I can do this by myself? Do you think I can do it by myself if I have to, because they're going to start before me, or do it at the end of it? Because we had a whole trip planned. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll meet up with them after the hike, and after everyone goes home, I'll go and do the hike alone. And I love my dad, because my dad was like, look, you've done everything you need to do to be mentally healthy. There's no reason you can't do this. And I was just, that's like all the motivation I needed, to just push forward and be like, I'm going to do this solo. And I did the hike solo, trying to catch up to my friends. I was supposed to catch up with them the first day, mind you. Actually, let me backtrack a little. I got a negative PCR test, right? My buddies were like, come, just go with that test. I wanted to get a second one to confirm. They were like, just come, it's okay. Like, you can bribe the customs here in the airport. And I was like, if I'm positive again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, screw it. So I bought a new flight after missing my original flight. Like, at 6 in the morning, I bought a new flight. Damn. I'm on my way to Africa by 11 a.m. So on my flight to Amsterdam, from JFK to Amsterdam, I got a COVID result from the one that I took to confirm my negative.
Right.
Positive.
God damn it.
So I summited Kilimanjaro allegedly.
Right,
COVID
assuming
positive.
like that one of those was real and it was the positive one that you were positive.
Exactly. The whole time I was freaking out when I landed. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get quarantined in Africa. And
well, there's so many different things. It's like, because, COVID is allegedly like, it affects the lungs too. Yeah. You're about to do this crazy, like.
I was 100% asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I was just like, oh my God, what if?
Anything at that point, anything's running in your head.
What if I start having problems when I'm on the mountain and then?
You're 10,000 feet up.
Yeah, but I called my sister-in-law, who's a nurse practitioner, and one of my other doctors, and I was like, hey, look, is this a smart thing to do? And they were like, look, if you've been asymptomatic this long, you're probably not going to be symptomatic at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. That's all I needed to hear. I'm gonna do this.
That's crazy.
And it was, where were we? I forget where we were before I was.
No, just the aspect of the trip, So like what it went into. But when you were on the mountain, like you guys camped up there.
Oh, we camped. It was a 7-day ordeal.
Yeah.
But I had to cut my trip into 6 days to catch up with my friends.
Right.
I was supposed to catch up with them the first day, but then the porter apparently left my tent because this was a different schedule than which was originally planned for me. They left my tent all the way at the bottom of the mountain on the first day. So I didn't have time to go and catch up to my friends because the sun was already falling and they said, oh, we couldn't do it. So the next possible time that it was easy for me to catch up with my friends was on day 5. Turns out when we meet just before the summit, I'm like, hey guys, what's up? I'm super excited. We're going to summit together. They already summited. They came down because they were miserable because a bunch of their stuff had got wet. So one of my buddies is sleeping in a wet sleeping bag. One of my other buddies, his clothes are wet. And at that altitude, nothing dries up.
Yeah, of course not.
Everything is
frozen
and wet and just miserable.
God,
so then I had to summit by myself on top of that.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and that was scarier because...
And how long do you spend up there at the summit?
Oh, maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't stay up there too long, especially the day that I summited because it was snowing sideways.
And I'm sure is there a time of the year where it's pretty much...
It was supposed to be that time.
Really?
Yeah, and it was snowing sideways. And remember, no matter where you are in the world at that height, it's going to be
of course.
Snowing for the most part.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not really super educated in the matter, but from
what
I gathered, that's
pretty much snow-capped all year long.
But the scary part was I had hiked 8.5 hours to catch up with them to what I thought was going to be the night of the summit with them. I was wrong. So I had to summit by myself, like I said. I had about 4 hours of sleep before I had to wake up at midnight to then summit for 7.5 hours as the sun was rising from midnight until the sun rose. And I remember the guy kept telling me, he was just like, you gotta stay awake because if you fall asleep at that temperature, that altitude, you'll die, and he was telling me that and very adamant about that, and he was
Jesus.
like, I was freaking out, I'm not gonna be honest.
Yeah.
At one point I was like, all right, I'm gonna die or I'm gonna do this, and then I was like, no, you can't die.
Dying's not an option.
Yeah, I was like, I told the guy, I was like, this isn't safe, man, I gotta turn around. And it sucked because I was by myself, so I didn't have my buddies to hype me up, and we didn't have each other they had each other to hype themselves up. But me, all I had was my one guide, being like, you can do this, mine is broken English too. Yeah. You can do this, and sure enough, we did make it. And let me tell you, when I made it, that was like the most incredible feeling in the world, and I did shed a tear, and that was like...
Were you able to like see a view?
I could see a good view before the sun came up because all the lights down at the two cities, Moshi and Arusha, you could see them lit up. But as soon as the sun come up, it actually, for whatever reason, gets colder when the sun gets up there at the summit, and then it starts snowing. So it was, I mean, for reference, what I was saying about dying up there, he had told me that like 2 years ago he had a guy in his 60s who had accomplished it. Late 50s actually told me he had accomplished the summit, and the guy just sat down, put his heads on his pole, and never woke up again. Woke up again.
Up there.
The guy died.
And what's the procedure of that? I mean, they
carry him down. They get like he told me they get 6 or 7 guys and carry him down to the next camp where they can helivac the body off the mountain. So
dude, that's wild.
It was a great experience.
It's definitely a bucket list thing. That's for damn sure.
A lot of people that I've talked to have been like, I want to do it.
Yeah, I know it's something that I would love to do too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, it was the whole. Okay, like I did this, I can do anything now.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw the post that I made or if you got the chance to read it. But
I did.
It's crazy how many other people, I'm not sure how many people deal with it, or you yourself with anxiety and all that. How many people reached out to me and how many people said, hey, can you send me this personally, that post that I made, because I know someone who needs this.
Right.
And, you know, my whole idea behind that post was, if I can just help out one person, like, I've succeeded, because I remember how, like, alone I felt dealing with all that, until I realized how many other people deal with the same stuff, and then it helped tremendously to get over it and all that. So
I mean, it's a battle that a lot of us are facing. Some may not even know that they're facing it, right? I mean, anxiety is something that has affected people in my life, you know. I've seen the effect that it has. Luckily, I don't deal with it on like a grand scheme, but I've definitely experienced it. I understand what it feels like, what anxious thoughts are like, right? And kind of being in that headspace, and how it can really kind of take you in a completely different path, right? You know, it could take you in a different direction that you don't even, you don't want to be there, nor did you even envision yourself being there, right? So
it just gets thrown onto you.
Exactly, and it's crazy because there's not really like a way to put it into words, right? You know, you try your best to put it into words, but it's a feel thing more than anything. But you do see, you know, when someone is dealing with it from like the outside in, you could see how it kind of affects their thought process, just the way they talk, you know, versus a non-anxious person, right? Just the way, kind of like the way they perceive things. So to me, it is very mental, right? So, like you said, it's something that you've dealt with, right? It's something that I'm sure you're still dealing with, because I don't think it ever goes away.
I don't think it's ever really gone away.
And it never will.
And that was what bothered me at the beginning. I was freaking out with my psychologist, and I was just like, dude, I'm never going to be fun again. Like, my life is over as I know it. He was like, man, that's not true. You know, like, listen, you have to work at this too. You know, it's not just going to go away out of nowhere.
Exactly.
I started doing, you know, yoga, eating healthier. I obviously, I stopped doing drugs. Unfortunately, drugs got me into that whole mess. And then I made the lifestyle change for my nephews, number one. I mean, they were my biggest why, is like, I need to be alive and competent for them. So, but at the same time, my psychologist was like, look, dude, you gotta, you know, your quality of life is going to get better too. You should be allowed to have some fun, go out and have a drink or two. And then finally I started to
It's a healthy balance.
Yeah, which it was not before.
Well, because think about it. You were on the extreme spectrum of the anxiety, right? So to get yourself out of it, you got to pull to the other side, right? So 100%. It's like, because what are you going to do? You're going to put yourself back into tendencies that got you there in the first place. So it makes sense, but it's like that calibration, right? So it's
you got to wean yourself kind of. Yeah, it's like going on a crash diet. You can't just eat fast food all over again.
Exactly.
You know, you got to kind of get back into it occasionally, and now I'm having fun again. I'm traveling again and all that. Work is, I mean, dude, I couldn't even show 2-story houses, because just climbing the stairs would freak me out, because my heart rate, I would start to feel my heart rate, and you know.
And was or is your anxiety driven from like more of like is it like a height anxiety that you have, or like is it more like a social anxiety?
I don't even know I don't think it's social. I think it just has to do like a bunch of, like, I guess, finances, you know. Unfortunately, like, and this is why I think social media, finances, my brother's death, all that kind of stuff. That's why I think social media is honestly horrendous, because I've found myself and a lot of other people so many times just trying to, like, keep up with the Joneses. And this is what we were talking about earlier. You know, you see somebody that they're out, they're popping bottles, they're doing this, they're doing that. You're like, oh, I gotta do that. Like, you did it last weekend. Take a break. Do it in a month. Do it 2 months from now. And there's always someone else to hang out with on social media, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And honestly, if I wasn't in real estate, I would probably just delete everything and be done with it. And
if I wasn't like doing this, you know, or trying to create something, I would 1,000% not be on social media, because for the same exact reasons. It's like, I mean, you do it now, even like, as I'm sure, like as a realtor, as like, right, there's always, okay, I want to be that realtor, right? Like he's doing this, he's doing that. Like I want to be like that, right? Like me, I watch podcasts, or I see this entrepreneur. I'm not going to be happy until I get that way, right? So it's like, we're always stuck in that comparative, and it's like, it's so easy, right? It's like, it's right here. I look at it. I go from one picture to the other picture, and you're always just stuck in that, in that hole, right? And it consumes you, right? So I see it's crazy. It's like a common theme: social media, and it's being put out to be like this valuable tool. It is.
Which it is.
It is,
but a lot of people don't use it for that.
No, it's not. They definitely don't. But it's like, at what cost too, right? At what cost to our mental health is it really a valuable tool now? Because we're positioning it that way, right? And society is positioning that way, and it is being used that way, and it's opened the door to so many different businesses and allowed so many opportunities to exist, and it continues to provide that. But again, at what cost, right? Because then, 90% of what I do probably could take 20 seconds. It doesn't take that long to post something, maybe to engage with a couple comments that I might get. But the majority of the time is not me doing that. Yeah. What is it? Consuming the other crap that's out there, right? Yeah. Getting stuck in this explore page, getting sucked in, like I picked on this picture. Now I'm 7 profiles deep, and then I'm like backing out and like just to get back to where I was. And I'm like, why was I even on here? Yeah. So it's like, it is a hole, right? And I think we get stuck in that trap. And I mean, essentially, you could choose to like not be a part of it. I think that is definitely a choice.
I think it's the easiest way, unfortunately.
And I think there is definitely a benefit to it. But like, people like us that we may not have that option, it's just about building that awareness of like, okay, I really cannot consume this content. Like I need to either unfollow or be better aware of myself and catch myself in that situation to get out of it when I'm in those holes, right? Yeah. Not just shamelessly just scrolling through at 9 a.m. when I'm in bed, right? Yeah. So we could definitely be better.
Yeah, the first thing you do when you wake up, I'm so guilty of that. It's like, phone,
and if you read a lot of these things around anxiety, right? I do read a lot about it, right? Yeah. I read a lot about mental health. A lot of the books that I read are around that, and I think why do I do that? Because it naturally is something that is important to me, because I see the benefit that it does when I practice things to avoid that, right? Like meditation, yoga, and some of those other things. But one of the common themes is like how you start your day already sets the tone about how you're going to be feeling, right? Yeah. If you start your day by scrolling through Instagram for 20 minutes, what happens? It's a very hyper aware situation that's happening, because you're going from one picture to the next. So already your brain is firing like that, right? It's already hyper. And what's anxiety? It's a very anxious mind. It's a very hyper mind. It's going from one thought to the next thought, right? So you're already positioning your brain to already function that way, right? On top of whatever it is that you're consuming, whether it's good content or not good content, your brain's already firing that way, right? So one of the common themes they say is like, don't touch the phone. Don't.
It's so hard.
It is. It's easier said than done, right?
I try to not touch my phone until like 10 in the morning.
So what they say is like, don't even put it within reach, right? So like a lot of us, like we have the phone right next to our bed, right? So you just unplug and right? It's like super easy. Or it's like some people say like, go put it in the room next door, because guess what? It's gonna force you to get up, and then you're already up, so you may go, let me go get a glass of water. Oh, let me go to the bathroom. So now you're already doing like more mindful movements rather than just.
You know what the best mindful thing anyone can do in the morning is? Brush your teeth.
Yeah.
And do your bed.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever gone back to bed after brushing your teeth?
No.
No.
It's it. The day started. It's true.
The day started. You wake up, you brush your teeth, and no one goes back to bed after brushing their teeth.
It's true. So, and that's part of the practice. It's funny because a lot of people actually recommend doing that. Yeah. Like when you wake up, go brush your teeth. Or go do a task, like make your bed immediately right out of getting out of bed.
The bed one is good because I forget his name, unfortunately, and he's very famous, the former U.S. Navy admiral.
Okay, yeah.
This guy, he spoke to a college.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And let me tell you, it works.
Yeah.
Because you like do one task and then it's like, all right, I can do something else now.
But it's crazy because you tell that to somebody and they'll be like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. It's just my bed.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you can't do that, so did I. But then you realize that it does have significance, because why? If you can't do the simple task of making your bed, what makes you think you're going to have the simple task of doing anything else? Yeah. Right? So it's like, just make your bed. Why? Because you've accomplished something already. It's not about how you think about it. We're machines, right? So your brain fires a signal saying, I have to make my bed, right? So then what do? You make your bed. In your head now, you've significantly accomplished something. Maybe not in your eyes, but in the eyes of your brain, you accomplished something that it told you to do. Yeah. But if you tell yourself, should I make my bed? Should I not make my bed? That's it. You've already lost the battle, right? So it's like those little things make the biggest freaking difference.
I think for me, they've made a huge difference. I mean, getting over my anxiety included starting to make sure the first thing I did was make my bed. Yeah. Go for my runs or walks at 6 in the morning, and be in the gym by 7:30.
Yeah,
and then
starting your day off on a more positive note.
It'll help. That helps me propel myself into doing things that I otherwise think like I couldn't do this before. Like I don't want to. I used to be like, like kind of just big on self-sabotaging. I wouldn't even know I was doing it.
Exactly.
And,
it takes a level of awareness to even get yourself out of it.
Yeah, and it's a thing I tell everybody now is you got to do those little things because a lot of people are scared to just even. Those little things will help you do the things that you're scared to start doing in your life. Like, I don't know, starting a podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of people might think, I can't start a podcast. It's going to suck at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it might suck at the beginning. But nobody's going to get it perfect at the start. And I think people are just kind of scared to just start. And I think it starts with literally the most simple tasks like that. And if people just started and just did it and let people talk all the shit they want in the world, I mean, the people who get stuff done, it's the people who don't care. I mean, it's a cliche. But it's the people who don't care.
You see, like, it may be cliche, but you know why it's cliche? Because it's true.
Yeah.
You know, it's relevant. Like, the making the bed thing, there's a reason why the most successful people, they push that and they advocate for that because they're the same way.
Yeah.
They say the same thing. Don't give a shit about what the other people think. Why? Because if you do, then you're going to be stuck living their life and not your life, right? So, when you, like... I was listening to a podcast the other day, right? And it's like the successful people aren't doing anything different. They find a common theme about what other successful people are doing, and they just try to replicate that, right? In their own craft, you know, whether it's real estate, whether it's being, you're starting a marketing agency or you're starting a podcast, whatever it may be, you know, there's a common theme amongst everyone where they choose what they want to do. They don't worry about anybody else, and they build habits that are sustainable, like going to the gym, reading a book, listening to a podcast, things that benefit you, right? There's certain things that don't do that. Like you were talking about, like the self-sabotage.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to like check yourself when you start to kind of spiral a little bit here and there.
It's easy to start, because one thing is like starting. The other part is like being consistent about it.
Consistency is the biggest key because and I've told a lot of friends too who are some days are like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, okay, perfect. This is when you really have to do it then. And you have to force yourself to do, I mean, in my opinion, some people might have a different opinion. Days I don't feel like going to the gym, those are the days where I really prove to myself like, all right, you have to force yourself to go and get it done. Yeah. Because then you'll feel...
Those are the days you grow the most, too.
You'll have even more endorphins running through your head after that. And,
exactly.
And I wish more people could, I don't know, get out of that hole. And that's what I try to do with the posts that I've made and all of that. And it works. Like, if we could all just kind of focus more on how important us being nice to each other, like talking about our mental health is... Everybody would do so much better. Everybody would do so much better in their lives, and it would... It's
true. It is crazy, dude, because, like, people are generally not nice to each other.
People are mean. People are super mean. I have so many best girlfriends. They're a group of, like, 7 or 8 of my best girlfriends, and it's, like, some of the shit that I hear in between them, I'm just, like she did that to you?
Yeah.
I'm just like, you guys aren't friends.
Yeah, exactly. Really? Like, that's your friend?
Yeah, and it's just, people are incredible, man, and it blows my mind, and that's why I think it's really true that, I guess, your parents always have told us this. I know it's, again, another cliche.
Yeah.
You know, you're lucky to have 3 or 4 good friends when you're older, and honestly, the more that I grow up, I guess
the more and more
realize
it becomes
that.
true. Yeah.
So, it's been a hell of a ride trying to get over anxiety and get to this point, but
I mean, it's like we were saying, it's a battle that doesn't necessarily go away. But what you do is you find better ways to manage it. Yeah. Right? So what are the things that help for it, things that make you feel better, and just putting yourself in a position to feel better at the end of the day, because it's never really going to go away. Yeah. But what happens is you just find a way to take care of yourself and to kind of look at it in a different lens, because a big part of dealing with anxiety is accepting it.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you said that, dude, because
people look at it like, shit, having anxiety, have fucking issues, like, what the hell's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with you, man. My psychologist told me that, he was just like, dude, there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. And he went on to tell me a story about how one of the guys at his, like, psych ward, he's like, you want to hear a real story about someone who's, honestly, it's unfortunate for them. this guy who thinks he's Jesus at 3 a.m. and he's screaming at everybody and waking everyone up, and he's like, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, fine, dude, fine, And
it's true. There's like serious like issues, and then there's just like the everyday I'm a human issue. Where, I mean, I'm sure you've read about like why even anxiety is even a thing, right? Because what our ancestors were like, anxiety derives from like cavemen when they were running away from the saber-toothed tiger that was trying to eat them.
I gotta
read up on how anxiety's even originated from.
I'm surprised I don't know that.
Yeah, dude. So from what the studies show, anxiety is a common human trait that is just our brain's way of taking care of ourselves, right? It comes from fear. Right, it derives from fear, from fearful thoughts, from just
it's hard to control
certain things that our body has just learned to understand because it's fight or flight, right? So back in the day, what anxiety was, because think about it, we've evolved as a society.
Fight or flight back
exactly.
in the day, that makes sense.
So we've evolved as human beings, right? Physically and mentally, right? Yeah. Because our brains back in the day, they had brains, but they were never aware of what we are today, right? So for them, it was like, I'm anxious about, do I have enough food for my family, and am I going to be safe, right?
And then it hasn't changed.
And it hasn't changed. And today, what's the same thing we're anxious about? Can I provide for my family? Is my family safe? And now there's just so many more stimulants out there. So now we're even more anxious than ever before because our brain, what's happening is the physical world is evolving, but we haven't adapted to the physical world yet, right? Yeah. Social media has come out and it's evolved astronomically in 10 years, but our physical component, our mental component has not been able to catch up to that, right? So I'm sure what's going to happen is there's going to be some sort of evolution of the brain, and the brain's going to be able to react to things quicker than maybe before, right? The way we're taught is going to be completely different, right? Attention spans are shrinking. So things are evolving, things are changing, hopefully for the better of human society. But the reality is we've always had a stimulant of anxiety at some capacity. It's just, what was that trigger to the anxiety? Now there's so many different things. It's about the comparative, right? There's the physical component, like, does my body look good? Is my business going to be as good? Is my girlfriend hot? Like, there's just so many different things, right, that we put out there that we're always thinking about, and it comes from a level of fear of what other people think,
which wouldn't exist without social media.
Probably not to the same scheme. I'm sure it existed.
It would exist in some.
But think about it. What you saw was only what you saw on your daily basis. Now what you see is endless. Yeah. You can open any app, you can open any video, and you're already down comparing yourself to that person, to people we don't even know. Yeah. Before it was at least people that we directly interacted with. Now it's anybody and anybody's on the table.
Has the home buying process given you any anxiety?
Yes. Yes. That is definitely... I wouldn't say it's an anxiety thing, right? Again, it kind of comes back to, like, the thing about, like, I feel, like, the pressure of having to buy a home because I'm 26 years old. Yeah. My friends are buying houses, so...
Well, the fact that you're in that conversation...
It's a societal... Yeah, I mean, it's societal pressure more than anything, right? Obviously, there's societal pressure, but then there's also, like, the pressure that we put on ourselves, which is a healthy pressure. It's what keeps us going, right? Because there's a healthy level to anxiety too, right?
Everyone needs that kick in the ass.
Because if we didn't have some sort of fear in us, then there would, like you said, there'd be no fucking spark to push ourselves forward.
Forward progress at all.
We would not move anywhere. There would be no sense of urgency, and we need a sense of urgency. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. That's how we get better. So there's definitely a sense of level, but the home buying process is definitely a stressful process already. I think as it is. And like you were saying in the beginning, you add the element of, like, hey, it's the most expensive market now. People from all over the world are moving. Not even all over the U.S., all over the world.
All over the world.
I mean, it doesn't matter where. South America, Central America, New York, California, Europe. Everyone wants a piece of the pie over here right now. And listen, it's awesome from an economic standpoint. It's great for business.
For local economies.
Exactly. Sure. And what U.S. is based off of, this is what you couldn't ask for a better situation.
It sucks for locals, though.
It
sucks especially for people who are
they're driving up the market, right? Yeah. So what happens is, I'm here looking to buy a house for the first time, And then now a house that's probably $250,000 is going for $350,000 because they're coming from markets where that's nothing to them. So they're here willing to spend whatever and whatever.
If you want to hear something crazy, someone in my office in 2016 represented the buyer for a home in Star Island that sold for $18 million. That home, the agent who represented that buyer now turned seller, obviously,
right?
Because you want to turn around and sell it. They sold that house for $30 million 6 months ago. $30 million. He made a $12 million profit on the house over the course of 5 years in this market.
See, when houses when houses like that sell it to me, I'm like,
it's absurd.
Where do you even get that money from, bro?
You know where the money, a lot of the money comes from, obviously, like
it's old money too.
It's old money. It's generational wealth, but we're also seeing a huge influx of people our age who have a ton of money. Also, people who are kind of 35-ish, also kind of part of our generation, who have been working for tech companies now, who are just starting to mature.
They're blossoming.
Yeah,
it's like the Facebooks of the world. Like if you, like we were talking about it a couple hours ago. I mean, we were saying how, like if you were Facebook employee number 50, you're worth millions of dollars right now. So it's like, it's about buying into a culture of a business, and if you reap the benefits of working for a startup, then it works for you.
And I'll take it a step further for you. It's more so that tech in the way that we know it right now, that is just exponentially expanding daily at this point. Those people have been with these companies, a lot of them since day one.
Yeah.
They have all those companies are starting to go public.
Exactly.
And they have an incredible amount of stock options. They're liquidating. They're super cash heavy, and they're saying, I don't care, I want the house. And they're just paying in cash.
True.
So to some extent, it's ill-advisement on part of their agents, I guess. But at the same time, it's not, because it's like, hey, if you want the house, you're going to have to do this.
Yeah, you don't really have an option.
So I don't even know at this point. It's just, none of it makes any sense at all. You know, it's crazy how, unfortunately, Miami people have been completely driven into exile. People going back to having to live with their parents, and because people's rent going up by 50-60%. I was going to say,
I know multiple people that they moved out to, paying rent.
It didn't make sense to pay rent anymore.
And then it didn't make sense, and they've just moved back home.
People's rents were becoming triple, even quadruple what their mortgages would have been if they just bought a house.
Yeah.
So... And, a lot of people now are like, oh, I'm going to wait for the crash. I'm going to wait for a crash. Unfortunately, I don't think there's not going to be one.
I agree. I mean, everyone says, oh, the market's going to dip. I'm like, dude, this is just the beginning of this.
Yeah. The good thing about Miami, though, is that since a vacation place, if this shit ever does hit the fan, the first thing that a lot of people liquidate is their second homes, their vacation homes.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think, a financial crisis like what we had in 2008, that's never going to happen again, because... a quick statistic for you, not to be boring here. 57% of the homes that are owned in America are equity rich, meaning the owners have at least 50% equity in the house.
Got it.
Whereas back in 2008, people had zero equity on $1 million loans. It made no sense.
It didn't make any sense. Yeah.
So now the equity situation is different. People are equity rich. I don't think going to be a financial crisis like there was in 2008. Will there be a correction? Are people trying to time a correction? Sure, but corrections always just kind of go back gradually to where they were just before. And that's luck. That's all luck.
It's like the stock market. I mean, you're never going to buy at the lowest, and you're never going to sell at the highest. If they did, everyone would be rich.
There's no timing anything.
Yeah.
It's luck if you're trying to time it.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm telling you. It's timing the market, not...
You can make calculated decisions, but you're never going to, like you said, you're never going to hit.
Yeah, it's all about timing the market. And
I mean, I think, too, now, like, at least, me being one of those people trying to start the process of the home buying, like, it's not like the most unreasonable time either, right? I mean, obviously the market itself is a little bit unreasonable in terms of pricing and just kind of the competition out there. Yeah. But like now, loans that you can qualify for a loan and just put 3.5% down on certain loans, right? So the liquid that you may have needed before, you don't necessarily need as much before, where like before it was 20%. Right?
You'd be shocked how many people talk to me about like buying a house, and they're like, "Oh, I can't afford it." I'm like, "You can very well afford it." House.
Well, listen, if it was the 20% rule, I wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But that's what I'm saying. It's given me at least the opportunity to do it, and it, obviously there's downfalls to not putting the 20%, and there's certain things that you reap the benefit of, like the PMI and stuff like that. But you could always refinance and stuff like that.
You could refinance, or you add an extra $100-$200 every month if you can,
right?
You know, and that'll really lower your payment down a lot.
Yeah.
If and you won't even know it. It'll lower from years. It'll lower by years that you pay it, and you'll pay it off. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
many
quicker.
Years earlier. And a lot of people don't realize that, and I don't know if it's just again, people just think homeownership is so unaffordable, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's really actually very attainable, and that's the best thing I think anyone can attain. Renting can be better in some situations, obviously, but I mean, nothing beats owning a piece of land.
Of course, yeah.
You know?
I mean, to me, this is my perspective. Renting essentially is an opportunity for someone, you know, who doesn't necessarily have the capital and may have other ventures that they may be looking into, or more of like a temporary location. So it definitely, like, I don't know if it has its benefits, but it has a reason.
You can be on the move, renting,
exactly.
You know, have a landlord fixing stuff for you if you use that capital to grow money somewhere else, you know?
Exactly. I mean, this was years ago. I heard Gary Vee say this, but he was like, obviously owning property is awesome, but like, you know, you could put your money in other places too. Like, think about it. If I had $50,000, right, and I wanted to put it on a down payment, gradually it would obviously increase because of the property value, and I'm paying off a mortgage every month. But like, if I had $50,000 and I wanted to put it in a stock, obviously there's a benefit to that too, right? If I wanted to put it into the S&P 500 and I want to see it grow 25%, I'm sure that's a pretty damn good win too, right?
It's a never-ending conversation because you can do this, you can do that, and everybody always says something different, you know, and in the end, it's whatever you're most comfortable with.
At the end of the day, stonks only go up, right?
Yeah. And apparently houses too, man. I mean, over the course of time, look, dude, a piece of land is always going to appreciate for the most part.
It is. Unless, I mean, history. I mean, if you look at historic trends, obviously it has its ups and downs.
Now, the problem is like you buy a house and you want to turn around and sell it, and I mean, back in the, 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you couldn't just buy something and turn around and sell it like you could now.
Right.
And that's what I've told people. As a matter of fact, I sold a house to a good client turned friend of mine we closed in February 2020 for $2.35 million. And I told him, I'm like, hey, dude, look, if you buy the house and try and flip it, you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
But if you actually live in it for 4 or 5 years, I'll sell it for you in 4 or 5 years and you'll make money.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened. Never in my life would I have thought this guy would have got his money back and then some, or even he broke even actually, plus a little on the top. In a matter of 9 months, he ended up selling for $2.9 million.
Wow.
And the pandemic, and it is like.
Yeah, I mean, my boss just sold it and bought a house a couple months ago, and the value on his house is already up like $60,000-$70,000.
It's absurd. I sold a condo for $745,000 back in December. We closed. The same condo is now worth $815,000.
That's ridiculous.
Over the course of a little over a month and a half.
Do you think? I mean, I know, like we were talking about. Do you think it'll like is that valuation on that house that high because of the demand now?
Another sale that just happened. Like every sale since that sale has progressively gone higher and higher, and it's crazy. I mean, you could literally list a home for almost whatever the hell you want
and just see if you get a bid.
I mean, I had friends who just listed a house they flipped. They got $100,000 over what it really should have been worth, which represents a 14% more than what it should have gone for.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, I'm shocked. I'm blown away how people are just kind of pulling up to the door and saying,
"Here you go.
I don't care. I want it, and I'll take it." So maybe if I was that wealthy and cash rich, I would do the same thing. Whatever, you know.
You don't have to worry about anything. Just go in there and get whatever you want.
Yeah, dude. So.
Is there like a market here in Miami right now that you think is like up and coming, that there's opportunity for like for long-term investment? Because like obviously like there's Brickell, there's Miami Beach, there's
everything in
Wynwood, Midtown. Obviously there's those areas, but is there a dark horse in Miami right now?
There's a lot of dark horses if you're willing to kind of deal with the neighborhoods changing as more developers come in and flippers come in and fix the houses. I mean, Alapata. I mean, hell, even just outside of, like, Liberty City, the Wynwood area, right outside of the Design District. There's already homes in the Design District, which used to be, like, I mean, people wouldn't even like to, walk around there during the day. Yeah. There's homes going for over $1 million now in the Design District. $1.5 million, actually. So
Yeah, I've seen houses pop up in that like Liberty Square area there that they're nice houses.
$500,000,
$400,000.
And a couple years ago, it would have been $190,000, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so those areas are great for Airbnb too. You know, you buy low, you fix it up, your Airbnb. Airbnbers don't really know, and I'm not saying the neighborhoods are like bad.
Right.
It's unfortunate the stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at Airbnb, I definitely look at the reviews to see if for some reason those people did. But I mean, I've definitely stayed in like areas where I'm like,
I've stayed.
I don't know if this was a great area.
Yeah, I've definitely stayed in some Airbnbs where I'm just like, oh yeah, if I lived here, I probably would have not lived here. I probably wouldn't have stayed.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
So, but you could do that with Airbnb. So, but the big money isn't Airbnb anymore. The big money is going to be in monthly rentals. I think 30-day rentals for digital nomads who are paying top dollar.
Yeah.
Like,
that concept's growing. There's like a lot of hotels that are doing that.
The new 11 building.
Yeah.
12. Well, they're building 2 residences. The second phase of their building, you can rent it out 12 times a year. The idea is to do it once a month, and you get $10,000 a month for it.
And you could surcharge off of that.
$4,000 a month. So
that's wild. No, the Miami market's developing and it's developing fast.
And I'm happy that we're a part of it. It's cool. I'm happy that I'm a part of it. And it's cool to see everything, just grow before our eyes, all the new buildings that are coming up. And I'm excited, dude.
Yeah,
so
it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we wrap it up, we got some rapid fire quick questions.
Okay, yeah.
First question, I don't know, maybe I don't know the answer to this. Okay. Beach or mountains?
At the end of the day, beach.
Okay. But the mountains has a special place.
The mountains has a special place because it's cool. I smoke, go out and smoke a cigar in a cabin, country music. But I don't actually like the sand. I hate the sand. But
a lot of people don't like the sand.
I like being around the beach. I don't like being on the sand though.
Yeah, a lot of people don't
like the sand. So let's just go with beach. We'll go with beach.
Okay.
So
that's fair. I figured that's what it was gonna be. Next question. Do you have a favorite movie?
My favorite movie, I think. If my mom was the one answering this question, she would probably say Jurassic Park. I watched that movie so much as a little kid. I actually broke the VCH tape.
Me and my friends growing up, no joke, would run around the backyard. I was T-Rex, they were Velociraptors, and we were running around like this in the backyard. Our parents probably looked at us like, "What? We raised these things?"
Yeah. The Conjuring 2 is probably my favorite horror movie of all time.
Wow.
It's very, very. I love watching kind of spiritual horror movies like that because those are things. I mean, depending on what you believe in or not. Yeah. I believe in shit like that. Yeah. So
I try not to believe in shit like that.
that stuff.
I watch it and I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's not real.
It's like, to me, it's like, okay, that messes with your mind. You have to really think. It makes you think. It's like, that can actually happen. A serial killer with a mass at 6'5" isn't always really going to happen.
To me, those movies like The Conjuring are more like symbolic, I would say. Yeah. The way I look at it is like, we could feel that way internally, like we're like possessed by something, right? Where like we feel like we don't have control over our mind, and which I could definitely see.
The first one was great.
Yeah, it is a really well made movie.
The series went from based on a true story to how much shit can we make?
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Anything to sell tickets.
And the first Fast and the Furious. So.
That is a good one. Even though they're like on Fast and Furious like 23.
No, I don't even know if I watched the last one. So.
Next question: favorite Cuban dish, Cuban food.
A breaded chicken steak, bitén empanizado de pollo, which doesn't make sense in my head because that's how they have it in the menu, bitén empanizado de pollo, which is a chicken fried steak, chicken steak.
Isn't that pretty much like the same thing as like a milanesa?
Yeah, but a milanesa is more, I think, Argentinian, where it has tomato sauce on it and cheese.
Okay, so the milanesa has the red sauce. Okay, yeah. It's basically like a chicken parm. Yeah.
And before people, whenever they see this, if that gets edited into this video, give me shit. That's how my grandmother always used to say it. Bitén empanizado.
Hey, no. So. Listen. We'll find out later, but I'm with it. And then last question, a book or a podcast that you have read or listened to that you recommend?
So, I mean, no one's going to like the type of podcasts and
it can be anything.
To, I feel like. So my favorite race car, Dale Jr., who you know his name, he's got a podcast called the Dale Jr. Download, and he brings in a lot of NFL guys who are kind of trying to switch up the diversity in NASCAR right now. I mean, Floyd Mayweather on top of that, who now has a NASCAR team. They're trying to really diversify NASCAR. And
yeah, like what's the guy, Bubba? The guy that
Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace, yeah.
And he was the first black NASCAR driver to win since I think the 60s. So that was really cool that he's racing under a team that's owned and operated by Michael Jordan.
That is awesome.
So the Dale Jr. Download is one of my favorites. Jess, she has a lot of shit to talk about on her podcast, Whiskey and Water. I occasionally listen to that one. So I hope she sees that. Jocko Willink, the former U.S. Navy SEAL. You ever seen that guy?
I've seen him, yeah.
I love his podcast.
Yeah, a lot of people refer to him on like videos and books that I've read. A lot of people refer to him.
Jocko's a badass.
Yeah.
So I love hearing what he has to say and all that. So
Cool.
He's a big motivation. So yeah.
Yeah, dope. All right, cool. So before we wrap it up, where can the people find you? And if they want to connect with you,
you guys can connect with me at allinmiami.com or at Will_Lengyel3. That's Will_LENGYEL3 on Instagram. And you can catch me on YouTube at Will Lengyel. So
dope. Yeah. Did you guys get any content around the Kilimanjaro hike or not really?
Oh my God. So I'll make this as quick as possible. My buddy was in Arusha a few days earlier, and all of his camera equipment got stolen. He had his drone. About $7,000 worth of equipment was stolen straight out of his hotel room.
Are you shitting?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So we were gonna get really cool videos.
I'm sorry I even asked the question.
So we were excited to get cool footage, but unfortunately we just got pictures and all that. So
that's something. And
you
got the mental.
I'll have to go back, I guess. Yeah. And maybe just climb Everest now or something like that.
Oh yeah, dope. All right, guys.
Thank you, bro.
Of course, brother. Appreciate it. So, thanks for being on, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You can find us at Stay Tranquilo, at staytranquilo.com, and the beer, Johnny Cuba, you can find at johnnycuba.us, in Sedano's Presidente Supermarket, soon to be Winn-Dixie, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
So thanks for being on, brother.
So thank you.